Okay. So we can begin. Hello, everyone. We welcome you for this joint IFLA, CPDWL, and IT sections webinar about open badges and micro-credentials. My name is François-Xavier Boffi. I'm Information Coordinator of the IFLA IT section. And I'll try my best to moderate this webinar, even if my English level is not as good as I'd like. So please excuse my speech mistakes. We co-organized this webinar with Edward. Maybe Edward, I let you present yourself.
I don't take up too much time here. I'm the information coordinator for the continuing professional development and workplace learning, CPDWL. It's a mouthful. I just want to welcome, we have about 20 people also coming in. Welcome everybody. I'm sure everybody is from different parts of the world. So very glad to have you here. The session will be recorded. And I think we have enabled chat. So, feel free to type in the chat, introduce yourself, or you can use the Q&A if you want to draw your attention to your question. So, yeah, microphones have been muted for attendees.
Yeah, we have a solid agenda, so we can move on examining the different presentation we'll hear. Doug Belshaw will talk about open badges, credentialing, and open recognition. Perrine de Coëtlogon is talking about, asking question, is the diploma just another open badge? And Sirje Virkus will present about open digital badges on library and information science education. And Wendy, Pothier, Emily Rimland, and Michael Guiterrez will present something about digital badges in academic libraries, perspective and opportunities. So we agreed on a maximum 20 minutes, more or less, for each presentation to keep the duration of the webinar within a reasonable length. We'll have the opportunity of 1 or 2 questions at the end of each presentation. You may put your question in a Q&A module. Panelists will be able to reply the same, or the question will be retold and replied at the end of the presentation. So let's begin with our journey in the open badges world with Doug Belshaw. Doug Belshaw is a technologist, leader, and educator advocating for greater openness and transparency in the world. He now works primarily through We Are Open Co-op and occasionally through Dynamic Skillset. He's a renowned evangelist of open badges. He travels the world speaking and facilitating on this and many other topics at hundreds of events. Doug, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Francois. Can I share my screen if you stop sharing yours?
Yes, it's yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. And can you tell me that you can see those slides there?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. All right. So yes, hi, I'm Doug Belshaw. My slides are available there. I've put them in the chat. And I'm going to be talking about credentialing and open recognition today. So I'm from We're Open Co-op, but there's members and cooperators. And the reason I put up this slide is that you might have seen some images from Brian Mathers before, and you can reuse some of the images that I'm going to use in this presentation under a Creative Commons by non-derivatives license, if you want to. And also, I'd just like to draw your attention to Anna, who I'm going to be talking about later on in this presentation too. So things I'm going to be covering today and things I'm not going to be covering today. So Perrine's coming on after me and talking about blockchain and Web3 and that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm also not going to talk about version 3 of the Open Badges standard and verifiable credentials, nor am I going to be talking about the specifics of badge issuing platforms. But I am going to talk about what open badges are and why they're awesome and why I've spent 12 years talking about them. Give you some stats, some examples, talk about the differences between credentialing and recognition, and then at the end talk about why co-creation of badges is particularly important. So let's begin. What are open badges? Well, the current version of the specification, you issue a badge which has metadata hard-coded inside it. The great thing is you're librarians, so I don't need to talk about what metadata is. So things which go inside a badge, the name of it, the description, what you have to do to earn it, who's issued it, when it was issued and who's it issued to. Optional things you can put in, you can tag them, you can align them with standards, you can say if they expire, and my favorite thing is to put evidence in. So for example, if you were issuing me a badge for presenting today, you might, put all of the different metadata in and then put a link to the recording as the evidence that I had spoken at this event. That would be an example of using evidence. So the reason that badges are awesome is that they are evidence-based, like I've just been talking about. You can stack them to kind of show what you're interested in and your skills progression. It's a free and open standard, which means that anyone can issue a badge for anything. And they're not stuck in a silo, like they're not just issued by Moodle or this badge platform or whatever. You can move them between badge platforms as a learner, as an earner. So they're great, they're transferable. And although this changes slightly with the kind of version 3 of the standard, the way to think about it at the moment is that anyone can issue a badge for anything. And then if the recipient accepts the badge, they can show it to people who can then check that it was actually issued by the people who they say it was issued by. And you can issue badges for anything, but for example, on-the-job training, online learning, unlocking possibilities, professional development, anything you can think of, you can issue a badge for. And I want to give you some examples of the kinds of things you could issue a badge for today. Another way of thinking about this in terms of a mental model is that most people on this call are going to be quite credentialed people, as in you might have a degree, you might have a postgraduate degree, and they're these kind of chunky things that we put on our CVs or LinkedIn profiles. But there's all these other things that you do. I've already mentioned speaking at an event. You might volunteer for something, you might head up a learning program, whatever it is, all these little things that you'd like to be able to prove that you've done and kind of have recognition for. These are all the kind of small stones in the jar that go alongside all of your kind of older school credentials, which are still important. Some stats, well, last year, according to One EdTech, who steward the standard, over 74 million individual badges were issued. There's over 500,000 different types of badges available and over 50 certified badging platforms. Now, because it's a decentralized standard, we don't exactly know how many badges have been issued, in the same way that we have standards around web browsers and we don't know exactly how many people visited certain types of websites and did whatever. So this was a survey done by One EdTech last year of all the different badge providers. The chances are many million more badges than that have been issued on badging platforms that haven't been certified by One EdTech. It's an open standard. So why might you, sitting there listening to this, want to use open badges in your work? Well, the first thing is to say that all of your experiences have value, not just the ones that other people think have value, but the ones that you think have value. So it could be the fact that you set yourself a target of doing something and you managed to achieve it. It could be that you have managed to get over a fear of doing something and managed to stand on stage at an event and speak. Anything at all that you think has value should be in some way wrapped up and so you can show it to other people. The second thing is that badges allow you to have a much richer picture of who is at the other end of a Zoom call to you. So instead of it just being this person who kind of has the usual LinkedIn profile or the usual CV, you can tell a lot more about this person's experiences and what they've done in their life. And, they come across as a human being rather than just a CV. And one way of thinking about that is that LinkedIn kind of constrains us to just listing all of our academic achievements and all of our job history. And we're more than that. We're more than just our job history and our academic achievements. So my top 3 reasons for using badges are, as the original Mozilla white paper said, I used to work for Mozilla, learning happens everywhere, but it doesn't always get captured everywhere. Secondly, the skills gap that people love talking about all the time in the news might actually just be a credentialing gap. It's not that people are less skilled than they were before, it's that maybe we're not capturing those skills in a way that other people can see. And thirdly, and this is what I want to talk about especially, is recognition at a distance. A lot of us are working exclusively pretty much online at the moment and have been since the pandemic and sometimes before that. How can we recognize one another at a distance? And that's what I would like to use badges for. So I'm going quickly, I realize that, but some general examples, and you can look at these slides later on. Surf Edu Badges. This is a platform that allows, for the Dutch education community, allows you to issue badges to students or workers with knowledge and skills, and it's a platform for kind of a non-profit way of issuing badges. Secondly, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, the Open University has a free Open Learn platform since 2006, and they issue badges for all kinds of things. So you can't really read that, but it says career resilience, how to succeed in the workplace, introduction to cybersecurity, working in diverse teams, and you can earn these badges for online courses that you can do in the comfort of your own home. Thirdly, IBM has issued millions of badges for all kinds of things like blockchain and working in agile ways, etc. And they actually want to hire more people with badges and fewer people with degrees because they think it's a more kind of agile way of hiring people. It's a more descriptive way of hiring people. My favorite example continues to be the Colorado State University's Certified Gardener program. It's a 3-part badging system, which means it has the kind of massive badge at the end of the program, but it's got these meta badges, and then it's got these smaller granular badges. So you can get badges for identifying trees and shrubs or pruning. They kind of stack up into this meta badge of trees and shrubs, and then trees and shrubs is just one badge as part of the mastery program. So you can go as far as you want, and it badges all different stages of learning. And the 5th example is my son's first badge. When my son was 4 years old when I started my Open Badges journey in 2011. He's now 16 and doing his GCSE exams in the UK. As part of his Duke of Edinburgh program, he decided to do an Introduction to Cybersecurity course, which was on Coursera, and the badge was issued through Credly, and he earned that badge a couple of months ago as part of the course that he was doing. So it's great that it's come full circle for me, and my son is now earning badges. That's great. The thing when you're thinking about badges, it's going to make sense to you. If you've got a badge that you want to issue, it's always going to make sense to you as a badge issuer. But the thing that you need to think about is, does it actually matter to the person that you're issuing the badges to? Are they going to be proud of it? Are they going to put it at the end of their email signature? Are they going to get a tattoo made of it? Whatever. There's different kinds of badges that you can earn. And this is a very simple taxonomy that we use with clients sometimes. So for example, you could issue a badge for participation in an event like this one. So this person came to an event and they get a badge for it. This person spoke at an event. You could issue a badge for being part of a trade union or being a member of a gym or whatever it is. But you could also issue a badge for a capability, reaching a certain standard. So if you finish this course successfully, you get a badge for it. But you can also issue a badge for rare skills or having long service to an organization or being in the top 1%. So this is just a very simple taxonomy of the kinds of badges that you might want to start issuing to people. The other thing which is worth mentioning is that the value of a badge isn't always completely in your control. So if we start from the left-hand side of this, we can control who issues the badge, and it might be Harvard University, it might be your library, it might be an individual. It's for something, it has a meaning, like it's for competence or participation or something. It can be endorsed, badges can be issued and then endorsed by another organization or an individual, and it might be part of a journey as well. But the thing that you can't control is the person who's viewing this badge, whether they think it's a worthwhile badge to earn. So there's all of these different factors when you're issuing a badge to take into consideration and try and make it the highest value badge that you possibly can. Now then, again, I know I'm going quickly and speaking fast, but I'm going to give you some specific examples which might relate more to your situation in libraries. So for example, here, and you can follow the links when you look at the slide deck, there's some stuff around innovation in libraries. This person last year who was talking on the Media Talk blog about badges in their particular context. Cities of Learning, which started in Chicago in the US in 2014, and there's now examples in the UK and all over Europe as well. You might want to get involved in that. Libraries were absolutely fundamental in setting up Cities of Learning in 2014. You might want to have a look at RMIT University's Guide to Library Micro-Credentials and how they've been using them. The Scottish Social Services Council has a really interesting way of issuing badges for the last few years, and that is when they issue a report, instead of that report just existing in a PDF somewhere, they issue badges based on the report, and then all of a sudden you've got people who are being encouraged to implement the report through the use of badges. So they have a series of badges linked to the report, and therefore the report becomes a living document. There's other things that you might want to use. For example, someone comes into your library and they want to learn some stuff. There's the IDEA awards, which you can earn, which is a bit like an online version of the Duke of Edinburgh program, if you know that. All different kinds of free mini courses, and you get badges for that. So you might want to roll that out in your library. There's a book. I haven't read this book, but apparently it's okay. Teaching with Digital Badges, Best Practices for Libraries. You could have a look at that. There's also the Library of Wales. The National Library of Wales has some design principles for using digital badges in libraries. And then Mississippi State University, they do the usual things around like training people on using Excel and Microsoft and whatever. And they've got some examples of how they issue badges for that. Last one would be the American Libraries magazines, giving examples of schools and libraries. And that's a familiar face right there. There we go. Got Emily on there. So, the very last one, Credible, which is one of the badge issuing platforms that you might come across when you have a look at all this. They've got a website called badge-case.study, and that has an increasing number of case studies around badges as time goes on, if you need that. Okay, I've been rushing a bit because I want to get to this bit. We know how to do credentials. We know how to do things which are high stakes and mean something, and people get to walk across the stage with it wearing silly hats, as I've done many times in my life as Dr. Belshaw. But that is not all we have to do in life. And the way that I would represent this using Brian's awesome diagrams are in the following ways. We know how to do cold, hard credentialing. Like, we know how to have repeatable things where this is an important thing to learn. So we're going to create a course and you're going to learn it and you're going to pass or fail it, and we're going to issue you a credential. But the thing that I think we need to spend more time on as a society and as global citizens is on recognition, on the relationship between the institution or the organization or the individual that's issuing the badge, and how we can make people feel valued and recognize who they are on a much more personal level. A way of thinking about this is that every single time that you issue a credential, you're also recognizing the other person. So recognition surrounds the act of credentialing. So when you walk across the stage and get your degree certificate or whatever it is, yes, you're getting credential, but also you're getting the recognition of your peers and your family and the people who have supported you through the process. And it means something to other people. If you're into sports, one way of thinking about this is that people win things, like they win the World Cup or the Tour de France or whatever it is, and they get a credential that means something. But it's the recognition that gives the credential the value. So we know examples of people who have cheated in sport. And when the recognition is taken away because they've cheated to achieve that credential, the credential doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, it's the recognition that gives the credential the value. It's not the credential by itself, which means something. Another way of thinking about this would be to think about the difference between descriptive and prescriptive pathways. So badges are valuable in and of themselves, but they're definitely valuable as part of a pathway. So if you think about a university prospectus where someone says, okay, you can come to our institution and do this course and you'll get a credential at the end, that's great. But also, there's lots of people who have lived very varied and interesting lives, and wouldn't it be interesting to badge the lives that they've led and the experiences that they've had? And that is kind of the basis of assessing prior learning or accrediting prior learning, APL, which is quite common in some places like Scotland, which is not too far away from where I live. The very last thing I'm going to talk about today is the importance of co-creation. I'm going to go back to Anna, who became our intern in the middle of a pandemic in 2021. And of course, we created a whole program, a whole series of learning experiences for her. It was the first intern we've ever had. And as part of that program, we designed some badges, which we thought would be valuable for her to earn. But when she turned up, they weren't the badges that she necessarily wanted to earn. And that was for a couple of reasons. Firstly, she was more experienced and talented than we thought she was going to be. And secondly, there were some things which we didn't even think about when designing those badges. And this is a good example. So she's German, and in German, there's a phrase which basically means jumping over your own shadow. I can't pronounce that, sorry. But so we created a shadow jumping badge for her to gain the confidence to represent the co-op to clients and to other people, to speak up in our Slack, to do whatever. So we designed this badge with her. But we also issued some other badges which we co-designed with her. So for example, picking up the reins of a project, learning how to give and receive feedback, how to plan in the way that we do in our co-op, all these different kinds of things. And so she's got all of these different kinds of badges that actually mean something to her because she co-created them. Before she joined us, she, as a German university student, went to study abroad at the University of Lapland. And the only thing that she's got to prove for that 6-month experience in the University of Lapland, which opened her eyes, completely changed her outlook in the world, is one line on her LinkedIn profile. And so she got a bit sad about that. And when she learned about badges, she realized that she wanted actually to earn lots of different badges for personal development and her knowledge that she and skills and understanding and cultural awareness. So she's never been issued these badges, but these are the badges that she wished she'd earned. There's all different kinds of stuff, like the Just Do It badge, the Bear Grylls badge for sleeping outside in the middle of a Finnish forest in freezing temperatures, putting cheese in your coffee, like ridiculous badges, but also awesome badges as well. So badges can actually package up and capture people's experience rather than just put one line on your CV saying, oh yeah, I studied abroad at a university. This makes your CV much more three-dimensional. It brings humanity to it. So badges are a three-dimensional way of doing CVs. I'm going to leave you with some advice before I hand over to Perrine, which is, having spent 12 years talking about this metadata standard, I would say 3 things. Number 1, call them whatever you want. As long as it aligns with the Open Badges standard, it doesn't matter what you call them. One person used to call them digital medallions. I don't care. Secondly, add value to existing projects that you've got to help the people that you're trying to serve. Align with existing standards. Don't just issue images. Like, the metadata is important to prove that people have actually done the thing. Secondly, don't just do a pilot, which is a badging program completely divorced from everything else that you're doing, because it's not going to be successful. The reason it's going to be successful is because you're adding badges which mean something to people. So third, co-create your badges. Don't just focus on what works for you as the issuer. Otherwise, it's just a supply side solution. It's not actually solving problems that real people have in the world. So I said I'd come back to OpenLearn. Petrina Law is the head of OpenLearn, and we had lots of conversations when she was starting that off. They're about to issue their 250,000th badge. And this started really small. They started really, really small about 6 years ago, and now they've had 100 million visitors since 2006, and they're about to issue their 250,000th digital badge. So this fulfilled a need for them, and they started small. And so in 6 years' time, you can be issuing hundreds of thousands of badges as well. If you'd like to know more about this, listen to the other people who are going to be presenting in this event, have a look at the slides again, but also get in touch. I will always reply to your email, doug@weareopen.coop. And if you're on Mastodon or LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me there. But I will pause in case anyone's got any questions, which will be useful for everyone else on the call.
Thank you very much, Doug, for this really interesting presentation, full of ideas and references, and yeah, many things to think about after that. And we will sure, of course, see again these slides to think about again. I don't see any specific question in the Q&A. We may have just 1 or 2 minutes maybe for questions. If I can ask something, you replied for a part of this, but we could compare the open recognition you describe as the underwater part of an iceberg, where the credential is the image part. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I like that metaphor. Yeah, so that would be a lovely way of representing it, so that we see the kind of credential or whatever, and the recognition is sometimes underneath the water. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe we could flip that a bit. Maybe the credential becomes less important and the recognition, the relationship becomes more important. I'd love to see badges which, instead of saying this person has this knowledge and skills, instead says this person is connected to all these different people and has value because of where they are in a network or a community or whatever. I'd love to, like, we're still thinking about, even though we're 12 years in, thinking about all the different ways in which we can use this wonderful metadata standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so open badges are ways to go underwater to see better what's under.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. No, so I don't know if there's no more question. No.
And just say thank you, everyone. I'm going to have to run because I have to get back to project work and stuff. But good to see everyone, and do follow up if you've got any questions. Cheers for now.
Thank you very much. So let's move to the next presentation by Perrine de Coëtlogon. Perrine de Coëtlogon is in charge of blockchain and open education at the University of Lille and the French contact point at EBSI, European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. She has been a board member of Open Education Global since 2020. And so it's up to you, Perrine. We can share links whenever you ask so that people can see websites and documents.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, François-Xavier and Edouard, who organized this event. I love it because it's a follow-up of a presentation that I did in Athens back in 2019. I was invited by Mei Shang following a presentation I made at the UNESCO. So you see, this is a long time ago, but in between there had been this pandemic and the lockdown. And the head of the University of Lille for the registrar, which is the follow-up, the registration of the students and the follow-up, and then the issuing of the diploma, saw how difficult it had been in 2020 for them to get the diploma, the paper. And I had been there for 3 years speaking about digitizing the diploma, and so I was ready. We were all ready, so we did it. We issued 35,000 diplomas already, which are not the real diploma, but it is the same standard as an open badge. This is what you should understand. Despite it doesn't look round or sweet like a medal, but it more looks like a diploma how we have imagined it in the 21st century, which means that the students receive it for the time being in their email, personal and students. It's when they leave the university. It has been translated into English. About recognition and what Duke said, when I thought of it, I said, but people have worked so hard for 3 whole years, you know, and nobody cares about that piece of paper in the end. I mean, the object diploma. So it's good it has been digitized because it's much more easy to share and to verify. And for the university itself, it's much easier to deal with it, to manage those links, you know. And so it will save a lot of time in verifying, because the employers or other university often ask, is that student or that person really had that diploma? And it's quite a hard procedure to get through to verify it for the university personnel. And it might be closed, or you may miss an opportunity for a job in Singapore when you are from France, just because you had to stamp it, send it per post, and it's only a copy, you know. So we did all that work, but this came through a group, a working group that I worked with in 2019, and it was about blockchain. So why blockchain? Why does it always come back in this conversation about verifiable credentials and open badges? First, because it's informatics standards, open source informatics standards. it's the same ideas. So when people from the MIT Media Lab thought of blockchain and what it could bring as idea in educational context, they discovered all this community of Doug and Sirje and Don present. And they said, oh my God, there have been people who have worked on that, on the fact that you are recognized, that the peers recognize these skills or this way of being. So it's about joining together, community of the open source movement, joining together and thinking and how to best recognize the people. So this is why we spoke about it, but blockchain does bring something new, really. It's the fact that the diploma is an official document issued by a university. It's not a peer-to-peer activity. It's a long way. You have been studied 3 years and you have gone through, you passed your exams, and then you have an original document. And blockchain is about this stamp, you know, the red stamp that makes the document official, and the signature too. If you take a flight, you have an electronic ticket now. If you take you go to a concert, you have an electronic ticket. And in the diploma case, it is as simple as this. People can show an authentic document, and it's very easy to share. So thanks to all that work, we did a diploma that is easy to share, easy to verify, is easy to revoke if there have been a fraud, or if there is a mistake in the name, you know, and to reissue. And there is that stamp and these proofs, this evidence-based, as Doug said, that is really important to future employers. The students are very happy to have those, because they shared them already 60,000 times, more than 60,000 times, despite it's an individual link that they really have in hand, like they would have a paper, you know, and it was verified as many times from 135 countries. So you really give an advantage to the people having such a diploma. Now, when I first worked on this, it was interesting to see that blockchain was about ledger, so finding your learning outcomes whenever you need them during your lifetime, finding any employer's certificate about your skills and competencies, finding those open badges that Doug just presented us, but where to find them. So Mozilla had developed a backpack to put them all, you know, but I was led to the European Blockchain Partnership, which is a governmental initiative. And I wouldn't have thought that I would go so far with that idea, those ideas, but many people came from all around Europe to Brussels to say, we have a use case for blockchain, for this public service blockchain that has no mining, you know, that is completely sustainable. It's the equivalent of another digital solution. And so it was taken at the first use case of this European blockchain service infrastructure. And it's really interesting because it's also about identity and having an e-wallet, a European e-wallet, that will be available for any citizens in Europe, but interoperable with all the international standards, informatics standards. And in these, we will be able to put one diploma, 3 open badges, and an employer certificate saying that you really spent 3 years at IBM or in any other company. So this is why I think the e-wallet and the fact that we develop a specific identity for education as a lifelong help for us to show and understand everything is great. Just to finish that and take your question, if any. The first open badges within my University of Lille are from the librarian too. So I'm very happy. It's Liliade Learning Center in the north of France. You may know Julien Roche, who is quite an active director, and Laure Delrue. But here you had two people in charge, one of Experium, which is within the library where you welcome young people, you know, before they get graduated and go to university, so from high school, to show them what we do at university. And Experium uses, therefore, PhD students. So they take time, they welcome young people or, you know, visitors from international cities. They explain what we are doing as research. And for this, there was only a paper, you know, handily made with a signature. So Jean Coëtlogon decided to make an open badge to better issue this to the PhD students so that they can show it to any further employers or universities in their career path. And another thing is for Sébastien Picot. He's a pedagogical designer of the library of University of Lille, and he always thought that there are students who train other students to become to the librarian skills. Very useful for critical thinking. And so he developed open badges to recognize the students too, and that it's easier for them to make their skills visible for future employment or within any of their career. So this is where I leave the floor, or maybe you have some questions that I would be happy to answer.
For now, I don't see any in the Q&A, but maybe I would dare to ask to you, Perrine, about the guarantee of authenticity of open badges that may be provided by institutions or network of institutions with global blockchain process, which is rather heavy to build, to sustain, and so on. What is the more realistic way to give this guarantee?
In the end, you know, you get a link. It's a URL. So for the time being, you will have in your e-wallet, you will be able to have any of those, you know, diploma or open badge. So you don't need blockchain for everything. I think you need blockchain where you want to authentify a document officially. And the European blockchain service infrastructure is particularly useful for this because it will give an official. You must understand that universities are not allowed to be universities like this. You know, they are certified and the quality is certified by the Ministry for Higher Education. So he's the certifier. The university will be the issuer directly in the EBSI. And then the beneficiary will be the person, the people, who will get these new links that are so easy to share. And in the end, if you have no wallet, it would be a pity. But you will be able to have those also in Google and Apple wallets. Huh? But the idea is also to develop a public service e-wallet officially. And finally, the verifier will be any people you want to share your link with. So no, you don't need blockchain for everything, but when it's official, it's particularly interesting.
Edward asked a question about parents of people, of young people having a digital diploma. Were they also happy, just like the students, or
who? Sorry.
The parents of the students.
The parents? So I have no clue, but I heard that recently the students have shared on social networks much more than they used to. We work with a company called BC Diploma, and they have acknowledged this recently. And you know, you have quite personal data in a diploma, like your date of birth, but you are free to keep it for you or to share it. So you can share it on LinkedIn if you want to, or you can keep it, and just if the employer asks, so you will be able to send, and he will be able to verify. I'm here, for example, in a conference, Web3 conference, and the organizer had a startup, you know, and he said, but I had so many disappointments in recruiting people that said that they had worked 3 years for Google, but who shall I call to know that it's true, you know? So here he saw that many people lie on the skills, and you need to verify, you know, and to have evidence that it's true that they were 3 years at that employers and they developed that or that skills, you know. So IBM does that for years. I've been doing this for years. And this is where we're going to, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see all the questions. So thank you again. And we can move on the next presentation now. We reach the domain of information science and libraries, where open badges have been and are used for several years. The Tallinn University of Estonia can be seen as a pioneer in Europe, and Sirje can tell us more. Sirje Virkus received a master's degree cum laude in information science from Tallinn Pedagogical University in 1997, and doctorate in information and communication sciences from Manchester Metropolitan University in 2011. At Tallinn University, Sirje has been working since 1985 and is a professor of information science since 2012. Her research focuses on the study of information literacy, information culture and practices, and information science education. Sirje, we are listening to you.
Thank you for this introduction, and thank you for inviting me here to share my experiences with open badges. And I share this, but unfortunately, let's see if I can share the slides. Yes. Do you see my slides?
Yes, we do.
First, I would like to say that I started to be inspired about open digital badges already in 2012. It is more than 10 years ago. And actually, one of my good colleagues from the educational technology field introduced them to me. And after that, I started to follow all these discussions in the literature, and still I am very, very excited about the use and possibilities of open digital badges in education and in general in libraries too. And I feel that open digital badges are very, very powerful tool for recognizing skills, knowledge, and achievements, and can provide numerous advantages for learners, teachers, peers, and potential employers. And some of the benefits were already discussed here before in our in the previous in the first presentation, but I have highlighted some of them here as well, as that open digital badges can demonstrate your skills and achievements to others. They can recognize learning and serve as evidence of your mastery of a particular topic or concept, and they can motivate individuals to learn and connect them with others who share similar interest and passion, and also they are very useful tools in assessing and evaluating learning. And it is believed also that open digital badges are the bridge or gap between formal, it is a bridge for the gap between formal learning and informal learning, because it is believed that 70 to 90% of adult learning occurs outside of official educational institutions, and we are learning via YouTube or Wikipedia or via MOOCs and so on. And we can also give badges for these informal learning activities. And if we ask the questions that why we should use open digital badges in educating future librarians, then in addition to various educational benefits already discussed earlier, I firmly believe that if upcoming librarians and information professionals have a positive and enriching experience with open digital badges during their studies, then they will be better equipped to use them effectively also in the library context. And I use almost the same slide what was used in the first presentation. And if we look our students in library and information science education and in education in general, our students are like diamonds. Every student is very unique, and they have a lot of different skills and set of strengths and weaknesses. Here you see, for example, a guy who says that I am much more than just my grade. He is honest and he has very good sense of humor, and he's enthusiastic and creative and kind. But if he gets only the university diploma, then nobody don't know that he has all these excellent skills. And with the badge system, we can very much recognize these skills. And we can say just that a certificate is just an offline badge, but our digital badge is much more detailed and gives much better overview of the learner. And there are many possibilities for educators how to use badges. For example, we can use badges at program level, we can use them at course level, we can use at unit level or topic level. And there are also very different types of open digital badges. For example, we can talk about outcome-based badges. We can give badges for certain knowledge areas, for certain skills, or even advanced knowledge badges. I will talk about them later. Then we can have multiple level badges, for example, regular badges, but also golden badges for gold badge for outstanding or excellent knowledge or skills, silver badge, and also bronze badge. Then we can also create multiple learning pathways and give badges for them. For example, I have highlighted here researcher, practitioner, enlightener, Wikipedist, and so on. Then we can give also broken badges to point out unwanted behavior, for example, being late to some assignments, but to be honest, I never used broken badges in my educational practice because I think that they are not very motivating for students. And then we can also use the constructed badges. For example, large learning activities could be deconstructed into separate independent badges. For example, peer review badge for making a literature review assignment and so on. And here I give an example about how I have used open digital badges in one of my courses called Data-Driven Decision Making and Change Management in Organization. But I have many other courses where I have used these badges. I have also published an article in 2019 in the Education for Information journal where I describe where I have used badges in another courses in my information retrieval and data mining course. But today I talk about this course. And in my course, I have used 4 different types of courses. I have given 6 badges based on individual assignments and forum class discussions on basic knowledge. And these are connected with the topics of my course. Then I have given 12 badges for skills and literacies. Then I have given 6 badges on the basis of personal learning paths, which a student can choose according to their personal learning goals. And then I have used also level-based badges. And I show here, for example, in my course, I have 6 topics. And when the student has completed the subject in excellent, very good or good way, then he or she gets the badge. I have here the first topic, data-driven society, the second topic, data-driven decision-making, the third topic, data-driven models, decision-making models and tools, change management, leadership and data-driven decision-making, and challenges of data-driven decision-making. Then I have 12 badges for the skills. I have defined such kind of skills: information literate, digital literate, innovator, analyst, team worker, reviewer, visualist, debater, holist, reflector, orator, and leader. And most of the badges I designed already before the course when I started, but actually it is also possible to design during the course, because in my course there was one very hardworking and smart student who was always able to see the phenomenon from different point of view. And then I decided to create the badge holist. And actually I developed this badge in the first time when I provided badges, and during 5 years I have given only twice that. Then it means that I haven't identified so many holists in my courses. And then I have also such kind of advanced learning pathway badges. It means that students can choose as a final assignment the assignment what best met their needs and expectations. They can choose researcher's path, practitioner's path, bibliographer path, bibliometrist path, Wikipedist path, and also enlightener path. And if they have completed this task very well, then they get the specific badge. And here are these badges. And all these assignments should be related with the topic of this course I taught. And at the end of the course, then I summarize all the achievements what the students have had, and if the student have excellent way, then she or he is able to get the golden badge. And if he or she is very good, then he or she gets the silver badge. And if she or he is just good, then he got the bronze badge. It was just example how I have used in my courses, but I have promised also to say some words how open digital badges can be used in libraries. Then I feel that it is very important topic for librarians, and I think that the librarians have been very innovative in this field, because quite early already in 2012 there are several initiatives when libraries showed leadership in the field of open digital badges, and I have here some examples. For example, Young Adult Library Service Association developed a virtual badge program for library staff already in 2012. Then there are many articles where academic and public libraries are describing their experiences. And if I look all this literature published, then I got a feeling that open digital badges have mainly been used in libraries to develop information literacy. And of course, it is quite a good area to give badges, because you can divide all this information literacy knowledge and skills to different blocks of but can be assessed differently. And I think that the first speaker already mentioned also that Perrine and Jakobson already 2018 published the book Teaching with Digital Badges, which provides examples how librarians are using open digital badges to enhance and invigorate the teaching and assessment of information literacy. But there are some other examples drawn from the literature what libraries can do in the area of in this area. For example, they can use open digital badges for learning and skill development. For example, libraries can use to recognize and reward patrons for completing certain courses or achieving specific learning goals. And I have given here examples. For example, library might offer a badge for completing a course on basic computer skills or for mastering a specific language using language learning software. Second is community engagement. Libraries can use open digital badges to recognize and encourage community engagement. For example, library might offer a badge for attending a certain number of library events, volunteering at the library, or participating in a community book club. Then for professional development, libraries can use badges to recognize and encourage professional development among their staff. For example, library might offer a badge for completing a certain number of hours of continuing education or for mastering a new skill that is important for library work. And gamification. Libraries can use badges also as part of a gamification strategy to encourage patrons to engage with the library and its resources. For example, library might offer badges for completing a scavenger hunt that requires patrons to find and interact with different parts of the library, or for participating in social media challenge that encourages patrons to share their favorite book or library experiences online. And one interesting project that I found several years ago was Badges project. Yesterday I tried to find it again, but all the web pages are disappeared now. But it was a project 5 years ago which promoted learning and aimed at providing meaningful evidence of the learning process visitors experience when visiting heritage sites. It means that when somebody visited a heritage site that were part of the program, they got a badge if they went to the museum or park or historic site, and there where they were able to watch, listen, participate and learn, then they got a badge. And here are just 2 examples of it as well. In 2019, the Guiterrez Museum in Belgium won the first Badges Award with their projects that united children and their local culture. And the second example was the Gracehouse Castle, where there was an exhibition, 2,000 years of Bremen Town musicians, and they used also badges to enrich the visit of the exhibition. These were some examples of the use. And as I see that my time is over, then I just conclude that I still believe that open digital badges are a very powerful tool for recognizing skills, knowledge and achievements. And they are very useful for learners and teachers and peers and employers, and also for libraries. They offer very great opportunities to support the visitors' learning, and it also creates new ways for libraries to engage with their patrons. I have here some references, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Really interesting to see the different aspects you underline about information literacy and library application of open badges. And so we are waiting for questions. If any of you want to ask anything, you can. If I may open once more the question part, according to your experience, is there a reasonable or recommended ratio between people that organize the open badge system and the number of learners and participants, so that the system, the open badge system, is updated enough, and there is a track of each participant if needed. I don't know if you have any ideas about this.
I am not sure that I understand completely the question, because I have used now badges for 7 years, I think. Yes, and I have created the badges myself using the Open Badge Me system, which is very, very easy to do it. You can make a badge just with 1 minute or even less. And then I have used them. I give the badges not in this this system, but I share these badges in Moodle system. And once I have created the badges, then each next year I can use the same badges again and again, because the most complicated part is perhaps making that metadata, that they are all precise and you know exactly how long some skill is valid and so on, because the technical skills expire very quickly, and you can give a badge that he knows very well some kind of very technical area and so on. But I think that I have no problem with updating or using these badges during the years.
Okay, yeah, understand. What about evaluation of the students to see if they are they can have the badge or not? Is this difficult work to prepare the system according to this criteria, or is it as easy as bidding badges, as you say?
I should say for a teacher, it is not very easy way, because you have to know your students very well. You have to follow up what they do, how they act, and so on. It is not very easy task, and especially if you have very large groups, then it is very difficult. But unfortunately, I have quite reasonable groups, around 20 students, and then it is not very difficult. But last year I had one interdisciplinary project group where I had from many different fields students in my university. But the group wasn't large, it was 18 students. And what I did, I actually made matrix, and I let students also to assess the same skills. I asked the students' opinion about all these skills, what they think about their peer students. And then it was very helpful for me. I haven't done it before, but I had my opinion about their different skills. But when I got confirmation from my students, then it was very, how to say, convincing, and I felt much more that I am not. Sometimes I have hesitations that maybe I am just subjective, but it helped me a lot, that matrix.
Yeah, great idea indeed. Yeah. Okay, we have the question about the Open Badge creator device you use or software you use.
I have used Open Badge Me. From the very beginning, and because it helps very easily to design all this, it gives you a lot of templates, and you can very easily change all these things. And if you don't use it in university system, you can also use this system to give the badges.
Okay. I put the link in the chat so that everybody can access to the website.
Yes, because it is also possible to use some more graphic design programs and design all these things yourself. But if you have a lot of badges, because I had a lot of badges, and then it is much easier to use that Open Badge Me.
Okay. Thank you. Is there other question? No. Thank you again, Sirje. We can now move on our next and last presentation. Emily Rimland, Wendy Pothier, and Michael Guiterrez. I don't know if he's here, but he's part of the group that prepared this presentation. So they are respectively incoming convener, past convener, and convener of Digital Badges Interest Group from the IFLA, American Library Association. Emily Rimland is the interim head of the Library Learning Services Department at Penn State University. Wendy Pothier is Associate Professor, Business and Economics Librarian at University of New Hampshire. And Michael Guiterrez is Director of Library Operations and Access Services at Minnesota State University, Mankato. So please, Wendy, Emily, you can begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you stop sharing so I could share slides? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you and good morning. We're pleased to be joining with all of you today. Emily and I will be representing our trio of speakers. Michael is not able to join us, but our talk today is about digital badges in academic libraries and several perspectives and opportunities that we can provide to this already terrific conversation. And I'll let Emily introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself.
Thanks, Wendy. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for having us. I've never presented for IFLA before, so this is really exciting. My name is Emily Rimland. I'm an interim department head in the Department of Library Learning Services at Penn State University. My email is on the screen there if you'd like to email me any questions afterwards. And I've been involved with badging for over 10 years, and I've really enjoyed working with this community. It's great to hear all the presentations today and see what everybody's doing around the world. So I look forward to giving this presentation to you and hearing any questions or feedback that you might have for us. Next up is Wendy to introduce herself.
And I'm Wendy Pothier. I'm an associate professor, and I'm also a business and economics librarian at the University of New Hampshire in Durham, New Hampshire in the USA. And I've been working with Emily and Michael for the last 3 years in our ACRL digital badge group, as well as I have been badging on my campus at UNH, University of New Hampshire. We'll call UNH from the rest of the time, for about, I guess, 6 years doing badges, and we'll talk about that a little more extensively. And our colleague Michael is not able to join us today, but we'll introduce him. He's our current convener. He's the Director of Library Operations and Access Services at Minnesota State University Mankato. And I'll also give a shout out to Carmen Cole, who I think is in the session with us. And she is actually, I'm outgoing convener, so this is one of my last things for our 3-year term. And Carmen Cole is one of our incoming conveners for the group. Then we'll talk a little bit about, first, we'll talk about what we're, some insights from our individual institutions that Emily and I work, ways we've been engaging with digital badge work. If you want to move the slide forward, Emily, thanks. And then we'll also share some of the opportunities and kind of discussions and dialogues that we invite you to engage with as part of our ACRL, which is a group under the umbrella of the American Library Association, our digital badge interest group. So we'll start off first with some experiences of our work with badging individually at our own institutions, and then talk about some of our collective work together in our group. So I'll turn it over to Emily.
Thank you, Wendy. So like she said, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've used badges in our library context to kick things off. So just to give everyone some context, Penn State is in Pennsylvania, in the US. We're a really large research university. We have over 40,000 students at just our campus, but we have many campuses throughout our state as well. So we have quite a large population. But within this context, we have no requirement for the students to study, like earn credits or anything like that in like a class that they're required to take related to information literacy. Instead, information literacy is taught in different courses in different years and things like that. So that means it's kind of uneven. There's maybe they get a lot in one class and not any in another. So that is one of the reasons why we initiated a badge program. So we envisioned our badges to be used within the context of a student taking a class. And that turned out to work really well for us, because what we did was we got some initial instructors on board offering these badges to their students in the class as an assignment or extra credit or something like that. They would offer somewhere between like 3 and 5 of these badges throughout the course of the semester, and the students completed them. We had a really high participation rate because of that. We had tried some different things before that, where we just offered the badges on their own and really didn't see much participation or engagement when we offered them like that. So offering them as part of a course really worked well for us. So as I said in my introduction, I've been working in this area for about 10 years. So we started in 2013, very small, trying different things, as I mentioned. But the program eventually grew to us offering, we had 15 badges we were able to offer people. And if you look, hopefully you can see some of this graphic on my slide. This is our hierarchy of different badges that we offered. So the ones on the bottom, they're actually visually on stones. We're meant to be those are meant to be like stepping stone badges. They really are kind of low-level badges, but introduce the students to different, mainly services that we offer through the library. So one is, for example, how to use our research guides online, how to use our search tool called Lion Search, how to use our virtual reference service called Ask a Librarian, things like that. And they were really targeted at online students, although that was the initial audience. That audience grew to a lot of undergraduate students at our university. And then from there, we have the hierarchy that's kind of floating in the graphic. And these are badges that relate to more of the information literacy skills. So they're grouped kind of in a family. And for example, the ones on the left are called Savvy Searcher. They're all about things related to developing keywords or recognizing bias in searches. The middle group is related to things like credibility, ethics, different types of sources like scholarly or popular sources. And then the last group is related to organizing information, and that gets into citations and project management, things like that. All of those are grouped in such a way that if you earn each of the gray badges, you can earn that meta badge. And then if you get all three of those blue meta badges, you get that kind of giant Uber badge, as we called it. We've developed that structure because we really wanted to make the badges have a lot of meaning behind them or carry a lot of weight. I'll get to this on my next slide, but we also conducted research with employers and asked them, how many badges they'd be willing to look at if somebody applied for a job and things like that. And what we found was that employers didn't really want to see just low-level participation badges or badges that really didn't have a lot of meaning behind them. And that's why we created this structure so the students could earn this Uber badge that really had a lot of metadata and evidence and things like that behind it. We initially used a badging platform that was developed at our university for badges to get kicked off. And we used that until a month ago. So the university decided not to continue supporting it. So our program is actually in transition right now. But like I said, we did use that for a long time, and that conformed to the Open Badges standard and allowed students to export them if they left the university and things like that. But that's what we used until very recently. So we're searching for a new system at this time. So that was a little bit about just an overview of our program. We've been really successful. We probably issued over 35,000 badges in the course of that time using that platform. We had really good adoption within some of the courses that we worked pretty closely with. And so that leads me to just a little bit about lessons learned from this time where we had this program. And I would really recommend, if you want to get badges going, you start with a pilot program, find some partners that really are interested, or early adopters, or that you've had a long-standing relationship with, and just start small and kind of build from there as you get your footing and find out what works well or what doesn't work well. As I said in the last slide, you try to have the badges to be meaningful. So like I said, we didn't see much success at least in our setting, of giving a person badge for just showing up to a class or something like that. We really wanted to have there to be meaning and a lot of weight and work behind the badge. So that was something that was clear to us after we conducted this research. I'll put a link to this in the chat once I'm done with the presentation, if you want to take a look at the nitty-gritty details of our research. But that was something we really learned and was informed by our research, that employers are willing to look at badges, but they're only willing to look at about 4 of them on a transcript or resume, something like that. So if students are going to put them there, they really should carry a lot of weight. And then the last piece of just lessons learned, and I think this was mentioned at least once in another presentation, align them with standards or strategic goals or something at your university or institution. So the graphic I have here is just an example of something we did pretty early on in the process, which was to see how each badge aligned with Bloom's taxonomy, which some of you may be familiar with. We also align them with the Association of College and Research Libraries, or ACRL standards. And that's really helpful for assessment. And it's also really helpful for as you work with other peers in libraries, things like that, you have a commonality. You can show them, how these badges are furthering your work, furthering those standards, and things like that. So if you are thinking about starting a program from the ground up, those are just a couple of things I would keep in mind as you get started. And I'm happy to answer, more questions about that if people have them. I think now I'm handing it over to Wendy. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Similarly to Emily, I've been not for as long. Emily, I will just say, is a real pioneer here in America for badging in libraries. And I'm always grateful to know and work with her. I've been badging at the University of New Hampshire since 2017. Just for some context, the University of New Hampshire is a R1 research library. It's a bit smaller, 15,000 students in our enrollment. And our badges were the first pilot badges on campus. And we used the Badger platform initially and integrated it into our learning management system. And my badges, to give a little context, I developed and issued 2 badges to first-year business students in their first-year research program. So it's about 500 to 600 students a semester or a year that are enrolled in that program that participate in the modules and earn the badges. And the badges in the fall, since they're first-year students, they kind of have like a basics badge that introduces the concept of like libraries and campus, but also what's a business library, what's business research, how is it different? And then in the spring, as they're working towards their kind of culminating research project, which is developing a business plan and then a pitch for their team pitch for their business idea, I do a market research badge with them, which is a little more intensive into kind of how to do company consumer and industry searching. And so they go through modules for each of those and then earn the badges. And really the overall goal for me, a couple of overall goals, but a big one for the students is I want to help them develop and articulate nuanced workforce skills that they are learning in the course of maybe their curriculum and their experiences, and how to be able to learn how to speak about those specifically, as opposed to like, I took a marketing class, but not understanding that they have learned how to do some market research. And that's a really valuable skill in the workplace. So I want to help them understand that and think about how to describe that at an early space in their career, so that when they're going out for internships after their first or second year and they're going on to job interviews, that they can kind of use these badges as a way to talk about their nuanced skill development for the workforce. And in my research and work outside of digital badging is focused in data literacy and how workers, what kind of data literacy workers need. And so this really ties into helping me think about how students are getting ready for the workplace, and how we can help them speak and think about it. We in 2019, we had a big change at our campus where we decided we would launch a campus-wide badging program. And this is a space where I think, and I'll talk about it maybe a little more in a second, but that there's an opportunity for librarians to really be leaders on campus when it comes to badging, because we are so used to being contextualized into not having our own enrollments, right? Everyone's a student of the library, and yet no one is a student of the library officially. There's no transcript, there's no degree program. So in kind of piloting these badges, it positioned me to really help our campus develop kind of a cohesive program for badging and thinking about things like open standards and taxonomies and how we describe badges. So you'll see on my screen here, you'll note on the corner it says grade-based. And now we have different ways we talk about different types of badges to describe if they were something that, a participation event versus like you had to take a certain number of, quizzes or tests, or it had a certain number of kind of hours, like a certificate. And then through that, we've been able to kind of control our branding. These badges now look so professional, but back in 2017, I made them by hand and they looked very clip arty at the time. So I'm really proud of the way they've progressed, but a lot of that's being able to tap into and then help develop the institutional resources around the badges. Emily, if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So just a few lessons I've learned is, one, really relying on those open standards that exist, and thinking about, as you develop, it's great to have library specific badges, but if you think about the context of the institution you're in, it's also really important to think about shared vocabularies, taxonomy, branding, and platforms across an institution that can really help develop growth and success in a long-term way. And often, libraries, we have limited resources. A lot of us maybe work. I'm the only business librarian at my university, so a lot of this was just me coming up with stuff, and then having that institutional support meant more resources than I could have come up with individually. Another big lesson for me was for the long-term success of these badges, integrating them into a developed program and being embedded into that enabled it to be more successful. Like, the students have to do these things and they are already in a program and they have a structure where they get kind of credit and points. It's a little bit gamified for earning these badges. So it's not, I don't have to go out and kind of be a salesman for why it's important, again, because they're not enrolled in the library, they're enrolled in the business school. But with me being embedded into that program, they're getting that information. And then also as a solo subject librarian, it's a really sustainable alternative to library instruction. The badges are automated, all the quizzes are automatically graded, they issue themselves. And it would be 35 sections of students that I would have to meet with if I did this in an instruction face-to-face format. So for me, it gives me sustainability and some kind of architecture of how I can build an instruction program as a solo librarian. So those are a few quick lessons for me. I'm going to turn it back to Emily, and we're going to chat for a couple minutes real quick about our ACRL interest group. Thanks.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you, Wendy. Just a little bit about our digital badge interest group to let you know about our work. It's part of the Association of College and Research Libraries, which is part of the American Libraries Association. I formed this group about 10 years ago when I started a lot of this work to provide just a space for other people who were interested in this work to gather and talk about their programs and exchange ideas. You can see the mission here on the slide is just really meant to get other people doing this work together and talk about our work, get ideas, ask questions, things like that. But we had to create the group within ACRL, but really anyone doing badge work in libraries is able to join the group, and we welcome you to do that if you would like to. We're currently up to over 500 members. It's really grown over the years. We have a number of opportunities that we offer as part of the group. Again, it's all free. We provide virtual programs in the spring and the fall. We just had our spring program literally yesterday afternoon. So we post all those online. They're on YouTube, as well as from the link that's listed there, the third bullet. We have a page that has all of our programs archived. You can go back and watch all of them that we've offered. And like I said, they're available from that guide or on YouTube. We'll have another one sometime in the fall. We don't have the date set for that yet, but we will have it soon. Along with that comes a discussion board, and that's on the platform that's on is called ALA Connect, which is actually free for anyone to make an account. You will have to go in and make an account, but if you go ahead and do that, you can still get access to our group, which is those 500 current members, and be able to post things and see what's there. That's how we advertise our programming or anything else that our group is doing. So just want to make sure everyone knows that's available as another option if badges are really your jam and you want to get in with other folks doing similar work. That's our digital badge interest group, and we'll put the links to that in the chat just as soon as I'm done sharing the screen here. Wendy, did you want to add anything about the group?
I wanted to emphasize that even though we're a group under ALA, membership in ALA is not required to join and to join the discussion board. So I just want to emphasize that it is free and available. You just go to ALA Connect and create an account, a free account, and then you can join the discussion board.
I'll put a link to Connect in the chat once I'm I can't really do anything because I'm sharing my screen, but I will put that in once I'm done sharing, and as well as the link to the article I mentioned and the page we have up specifically for the digital badge interest group.
And if it's not too weird, before we end, I just wanted to say, I know earlier the first speaker mentioned some of Emily's publications, but Emily, I think co-authored, right, Emily, a short guide through ALA on really getting a program started from the ground up. And I use that a lot in my initial work with badging. And I just wanted to say it's a great resource if you're kind of thinking about how to like start from scratch with badging in your library. So maybe we can find a link to that so folks can see it.
Yes, that's a library's technology report on micro-credentialing. So I think that's everything we had. Like I said, I'm going to put do a bit of a link dump in the chat to a couple things we mentioned, but we're also happy to take questions while we do that.
Thanks a lot. Same question as before. Do we have questions? I don't see for now. So we have thank you very much for this proposition and the creation of this group that is really active and provides many opportunities. I attended the webinar of yesterday. It was really interesting. I may ask something, because you have a global view on different experiences, and you gave some advices. But what would be the most dangerous pitfalls for libraries that would like to set up an open badge system, and what do we have to avoid?
I'll say I think being siloed is something to avoid. You know, the badge, as has been echoed throughout, the badge is only valuable to the user if they think it's valuable, and if the people that they're talking to think it's valuable. So if it's for work, or if it's for, you know, a hobby, or if it's for whatever context it's in, it has to be valuable to people outside of the granting organization. And I think if libraries are collaborative and thinking about how to make that really valuable to the user is a good pitfall to avoid. If it's too focused and centric and loses its meaning in the distribution of it, or the value to the user is challenging. And I think that's where, you know, integrating in with an existing program or having a really specific pilot focused can be a helpful way to start.
Okay.
For me, I would add, don't assume that people will know what badges are. There still is, there's much more awareness about this than there was 10 years ago when we started, but just don't assume that people will know what they are. You know, if you're going to talk to them about it the first time, be prepared to give them an overview of like what badges are, how they work, those kinds of things. Unless maybe, you know, your institution has rolled out something really big and everyone's doing it. Like I said, don't assume people know what they are, and probably be prepared to, you know, explain them and give people kind of like I said, an overview or background of what they are. we're still building awareness about what these things are and how they work.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know if it's a question. Mary is talking. No, it's about example. Yeah. Okay. You talk about different institutions sharing and working together. Are there projects or opportunities of building a network around open badges that would be shared between many different universities, or do you have examples of this?
I'm thinking. There may be. That's not, I'm sorry, that's not something like I'm not on. I don't have the information on that. It's not an area I'm watching. So I'm sure there are, but I don't have examples right at my fingertips. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will say that I haven't seen a lot. I think a lot of, in the early phases where we still are at in badging, a lot of experimentation is happening at individual institutions. But that I'm starting to hear people have conversations about, like, wouldn't it be great if we wrote a grant and we could have something that had an enrollment that was like non-institutional. And I think maybe in the US where we haven't really delved into that yet, but I think that's on the horizon with some of these kind of, at least in my like very business focused world. So like I kind of have a single sort of lens that I put on a lot of my work, which is preparation for the workforce and workforce skill development. But I think it's just, you know, sort of the systems that we work inside too, it like would require maybe like external funding for a project of that kind of scope. And so I'm hopeful we'll move in those directions more with some of these big skill gaps that librarians, libraries and our type of teaching and learning can really help enhance for students as they are carrying out, you know, their academic and then their future careers.
Yeah, and I would add, like, you see that kind of thing offered more from a business or an employer. That's kind of where you see that more kind of like cross-institutional credential being offered. And, you know, that's maybe like Wendy said, given our structure and the way things are in the US, that's where you see it coming from more than like institutions partnering together to offer a credential across institutions. So you'll see like IBM uses digital badges and you'll see students working on those. The other one that comes to mind is Google, right? Like they have a number of courses through Coursera that you get a badge at the end of doing. So yeah, it's kind of more focused from like an endorsed badge from a company or potential employers where you see that coming from.
Yeah. Something else that's sort of I've found really interesting is like the Federal Reserve in the US has an economic division. FRED is the acronym, and they recently created a badge for librarians to earn about their data literacy skills. And so it's a little bit in that angle where it's you know, very open to, you know, people from many organizations, but it is focused on our librarian audience, which is kind of fascinating and different. So kind of, you know, an example maybe where we're going with that.
Okay.
I'll just add.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add what Wendy said about the FRED. We had the person who developed that badge for librarians present for our digital badge interest group. So if you go to the page where we have all our archived videos of presentations, that is there. And I also put a link to that program for the Federal Reserve in the chat.
Thanks. I don't see other questions? So yeah, we may go on to the conclusion of this webinar. So thank you very much to our panelists for their presentations. Thank you, Edward, for this great collaboration, and thank you all for attending this webinar. We hope this event met your needs. Open Badge future is wide open, and libraries and information services have already proven the interest of adopting these for their patrons or for their staff. And library associations are also providing a good context for using the micro-credential process. So we can see, we can say, let's go further, or let's begin for those who doesn't have already begun. We might provide an open badge for attending this event. I don't know. We can think about this, and we give you a follow-up if it's possible. And thank you again to all. And so see you on next opportunities. Thank you very much.